overcome that first hurdle, take it one map at a time, and then start to throw Reject off balance. Because like I said, if Reject is looking past you, and they've got their sights set on what went wrong in that Gen G series, there's a chance.
And it starts right here in the ban draft. XOXO01 versus Reject. The last time XO took a map against Reject was all the way back in October of 2025. So it's been a whole 8 months since XO took a map, not a series, a map. XO still are trying to find a series win against Reject. Hopefully here in the ban draft is where things all kick off. But so far, the thing is true here, right? Mantis first ban for both sides. Reject will use that first save for the Gambit. So how does XO decide to treat this ban draft? They like to adjust a lot, right? Depending on who they're playing up against. And this Rocket first ban, or second ban for XO might be a play here.
It's a pretty solid play. You know, Rocket is another one of those heroes that some, I mean, by some I mostly mean me, have argued is just as strong, if not stronger, than the Gambit. So they're happy to even give up a one-sided Gambit to Reject and instead go for a Protect onto the Cyclops. Alonefills has been one of the best Cyclops players in the whole tournament, which I think has been a surprise to a lot of people because we're a very hit scan heavy region. You know, when we have the likes of Brownie and Exy in this region, you don't typically think of Alonefills, but he's cemented himself amongst the top, the best of the best when it comes to some of these Asian hit scans.
Oh,
and it's
my God.
Spider-Man Protect as well, so both of the duelists from XO are going to get their comfort picks.
Alonefills, it really feels like to me, Alonefills is literally Sungjak Woo, but give him range characters. Sungjak Woo has a huge hero pool when it comes to those dive duelist categories, but Alonefills has been doing a lot of work with the hit scan, right? He has, I'd argue, a hero pool as big as Sungjak Woo. We talk about the Cyclops, but his Phoenix has been solid, his Elsa, his Star-Lord as well, which is the last ban that XO are going to use their ban on. But Reject, however, will get access to the White Fox. They commit the save, they commit it one-sided. So if Sungjak Woo wants to go for those dives, it's just a little bit harder for them to at least execute it.
I love the skin that Brownie is rocking there on the Phoenix, but why is it black and blue, Dan, do you know?
Not entirely sure, but either way, Gargoyle is able to find Alonefills, gets the BRB down. As XO looking to find ways to open things up here, but Seunghoon allows Reject to get that man advantage going into this mission area unlocking.
Yeah, I mean, already burning out that BRB and then taking down another one. And I mean, Reject are just like you say, like putting their foot firmly on the gas and just running over XO and his Zeta falls. There's nothing really standing in Reject's way, so they can just walk right forward and take it. And I think a big obstacle here for XO is going to be the fact that Reject also got a one-sided White Fox there. If XO is going to play this dive style, you've got one of the most survivable backlines in the game in this Gambit White Fox.
And Yaki on the Daredevil as well, providing so much information for Reject. Knowing where XOXO01 are at all times allows Reject to accelerate a little bit of that dive playstyle that XO want to do on their own, because XO right now don't have access to the Daredevil. They want Sungjak Woo on the Spider-Man. That's the more comfort pick here as Zeta tries to disrupt the backline of Reject, but everyone's just stacked together. But still, it's going to be a one-for-one trade. Zeta is able to find one in the end in the likes of Brownie. Is this going to be enough for XO to get a retake going? Because right now, Reject, with the site control, they have a lot of freedom in terms of that map space.
It's a little bit of uncharacteristic of XO. They're giving a little bit more respect to Reject than they would some of their other opponents. You know, they have a tendency to go in super aggressively, even when they are down a man. When they find a trade like that, like you would expect XO to take a super aggressive fight, but instead they bide their time and wait for Zeta to get back, and that's going to give Reject a lot more capture percentage here. As Zeta going in for another dive. Alonefills does have a Ruby Rage, but Seunghoon actually going to use the Royal Flush defensively. It's going to give Reject a lot more room to play with, and Yaki is going in deep, making the most out of all that room, just battering Felix into a bloody pulp, and that is going to be another Elim going the way of Reject. You can already tell XO again, they're tucking their tail between their legs. They're not trying to fight this out. I think they're a little bit afraid of Reject.
I mean, they saw that Reject committed the Raging Royal Flush. They don't have one on their own. Gambit is banned on their side. So Reject Although the Gambit ult did seem a little defensive, it was enough to scare away XO because they know they don't have anything to match it yet. Felix now has access to the CYA. Zeta could easily team it up with the Feast of the Abyss, but if they need to, JT3 will have that Freedom Charge ready to go to try to maybe draw out something, but where is the touch from XO?
Yeah, I think we were supposed to see the touch from the Star-Lord there, but it just didn't come through. And I think to my point, XO are a little bit shaken. Like, they're nervous. They are a little bit too afraid to overcommit, which is very uncharacteristic of a team like this. And I don't know, maybe it's a lights too bright kind of moment. It's still early on in this series, and there's plenty of time to shake those cobwebs off, but you know, Zeta invests the Feast of the Abyss off of the point there, and clearly, you know, XO are fishing for something, you know, trying to make something happen, but whatever they were looking for, it just doesn't come to fruition, and they just don't know what the next move is. So Alone Feels just doesn't get onto the point when he really needs to.
I will give XO a little bit of room to breathe, right? This is the highest result they have ever achieved in Ignite. They've been 4th place for so long, but now guaranteed 3rd place. But they have to go up against Reject, right? The partner team here out of Asia. And they need to play a little more bold. They need to play a little bit faster, a little bit more aggressive if they want to try to take down Reject. But right now, XO are clearly in the back foot in terms of this ultimate economy. So if they do use ultimates on their own, it's only going to draw out a little bit from Reject, who have 4 already in the bank going into this fight.
Yeah, would have 5, but I think Gargoyle, you know, probably popped the ban hammer onto Zeta when he went in for that Feast of the Abyss before. And speaking of feasting, Zeta's health bar is being chomped down, but Sungjung Woo has managed to get in there, and he has finally sunken his teeth into this backline. He'll take down Brownie and looking to try and take out either Lastra or Sunghoon. He's going to force out the Kumiho, and now with the CYA, that Fox is going to be turned into a coat before long, and going to be Reject on the back foot, but trying to play for the point here, but Sungjung has gotten into the backline, going to finish burning out the Kumiho, but he'll be put on a leash as the Heaven's Retribution now going to come out, and Yaki catching off the leash, Ace away from the point, letting the Devil out, and beating that Shark down, and that's going to be another Elim going the way of Reject, and XO still looking to try and find something. That was the play that they were going for, that just didn't work out.
At the very least, they are able to exhaust most of Reject's ultimate economy, right? The only thing they have left is the Ban Hammer on Gargoyle soon, with the Raging Royal Flush coming up in a few short moments. But XO, you can see they're having a hard time trying to shut down Lastro on the White Fox. Every time they look for a combo play, Lastro is there with the teleport, which also provides a shield and a little bit of healing on the side of Reject, and XO just are struggling to try to play around this White Fox, who's doing a very good job at healing the backline on Reject.
The Banhammer comes out. I'm wondering if that was onto Ace and that forced out the It's Jeff, but Brownie is just clicking. He is in his own lane right now, not under any pressure. In fact, it's Zeta who is feeling the pressure. He's going to use the Feast of the Abyss just for a bit of a reset there, but as he comes back up, he gets skewered away by Piggy, banished to another realm, and Brownie will send him a parting gift, and now Gargoyle going in with the katanas, and again, XO on the back foot. Reject again stamp their foot down and assert dominance, rather.
Yeah, but the BRB is already invested, so Ace, his knockout will be permanent for 5 more seconds, as XO need to go for a regroup. We're slowly but surely closing in on Final Fight territory. XO still need to find a way to step foot onto the site. Don't do the same mistake you did back in round 1, where you just barely weren't able to touch to at the very least trigger overtime, and now the scramble begins for XO.
Sungjung Woo going in deep, and you can see Piggy contemplating trying to chase that one down. It's going to be a Galactic Legend that comes down, but again, a defensive Raging Royal Flush coming out, and now Alone Feels getting poked down quite literally by Piggy. He'll have to take a little bit more altitude under his wings, fly a little bit higher to try and dodge the one-winged angel, but there's so many more threats in front of him, and Brownie willing to chase him through the portal, take this 1v1. Alone Feels might be able to get the better of it, forces out the Endsong Inferno from Brownie, and now back over onto the point. Yaki is going to bring JT3 down to earth, and that is a rough look, as even through the CYA, Gargoyle is able to pummel Phoenix with a couple of those Deagle shots. Lastro letting the Kumiho unleashed, and now Zeta doing all he can to try and cling on for dear life, but Reject will cut the cord, and they will take Krakoa dominantly 2-0. They just need to clean up JT3 though. Heaven's Retribution. XO are still trying, giving it all they got, but I need a whole lot left. Reject take it decisively.
It was a valiant effort by XO towards the tail end during that overtime fight, but it just feels like XO are still trying to get some sort of warm-up down. Because you talked about it right, CB. XO are playing more defensive. They're not making more of those proactive moves, and that allows Reject to, at the very least, control how the pace of the game goes. That whenever they want to fight, that's when Reject hit the go button. It just never felt like XO wanted to hit that go button. But XO, whenever they did go for those proactive moves, they do draw out resources from Reject. But that was where XO just could not find those eliminations, any way to get momentum back in their favor, and Reject, again, just controlling the entire battle from start to finish.
Can I tell you the most the most telling stat line that I see on the scoreboard right here, Dan, is Sungjuk Woo 3-2. Ironically enough, for a team like XO, your Spider-Man player, you kind of expect a lot more casualties, but he's just not going in. He's not, committing aggressively to these fights, and I think he's feeling like, he's waiting for Zaytha or JT3 to set something up, and then he comes in to knock it out, but it's just not happening. It's just not clicking. The communication just isn't there, and XO, again, I think they're paying a little bit too much respect to Reject. And of course, they do command respect. They're the champions of their region. They are the uncrowned champions of this one, so if you were to ask them. And XO just can't really play their game the way they want to. Typically they'll go in aggressively, they'll force errors out of another team, but they don't feel like they can execute on that plan against Reject in the early goings of this matchup. And especially on domination, a map type where XO have been quite dominant in the past, yep. They feel like, they let their little brothers have the controller this time.
And also Krakoa is also very dive favored, so this should have been a home turf advantage for XO in terms of that playstyle, but I gotta look at the ban draft, right? Giving away one-sided Gambit and a one-sided White Fox, it felt like XO might have stumbled a bit there. You probably should have, at the very least, secured one of those picks, right? XO usually like to go for the second save onto the Gambit, but Reject were able to just intercept it.
I think the White Fox is probably the worst one because it just makes that backline so much more difficult to dive. Getting that one-sided White Fox was a coup that just kind of snuck in at the last moment of that pick and ban phase. But we are so far away from the last moments of this series. We're just getting started, chat, and we will be right back with map number 2 on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere.
Dan, what is your heart rate? Are you doing okay?
I said in the green room, it's a warm-up game for XO.
Okay.
I think if they clean up the ban draft, I have a feeling that XO may have a good chance at maybe taking a map at the very least from Reject. It's happened historically, right, in these best-of-5 scenarios, or at least last year, but this year...
And not this year.
Reject definitely seemed like they were running away here.
And it might not be... It might not be today either with the way that they're playing. Sure, maybe they can clean up the ban draft a little bit more, but I also think that you can't let a bad ban draft stop you from playing the game at all. Like, it just really felt like XO were barely in the lobby, right?
Yeah.
Like, they barely went for any of their signature dives. They didn't really try to push the tempo and force errors in the way that we know and love them to do so. It just kind of felt like somebody else was playing on their accounts, to be completely honest with you. So, we kind of agreed, the ban draft was a little bit rough. I think the White Fox is the big sticking point for them. It's so difficult to dive in up against a White Fox, and I think you can't give that up one-sided. I think you need to try and snipe a ban on that one. And over here on Central Park, that might be a little bit less of a threat, but there's still some other obstacles that you're going to have to traverse, even, up against a team like Reject. For XO, they probably feel like this is a home field advantage, but I would call it anything but.
That's right. We're going to Central Park. This has been a responsive map that we've only seen recently from XO. Historically speaking, losing first map, always XO would choose Spider Islands against any team that they were up against. But in the lower bracket, having to face up against, again, a Game 1 loss against Zero Tenacity, having to choose that second map, that was the first appearance of the Central Park matchup. Hopefully, maybe an opportunity to catch Reject off guard, not having as much data on XO and how they play. Again, regardless of how the map plays out, this needs to be a perfect ban draft for XO.
And that's going to be where it starts, right? If you are able to execute the ban draft, you should have a good chance of taking over the game, right? Map 1, you could say that XO definitely fumbled it a little bit, giving away the Gambit, giving away the White Fox over to Reject, especially if it's one-sided, meant that XO... Like CB talked about it, right? You need to try to prioritize getting rid of that White Fox. It felt like every time XO were able to get away with a White Fox ban, they had a very comfortable chance of winning some of those maps. Or at the very least, when they played it against the likes of Zero Tenacity last night. And I think that's the adjustment that XO need to make here. Put a little more emphasis on that White Fox in this ban draft. and maybe you use that first save onto things like the Gambit.
Maybe.
But again, like I don't even like again even if you do a bad ban, like if you fumble it again, like you can't let that stop you from playing your game. You can't be hesitant against the team the caliber of Reject. You can't take that extra second step to try and think about what you're gonna do. You have to already come in with a plan, and you can't let the draft shake that. And I think that's gonna be the biggest thing, going forward for XO is like I want to see them turn up the tempo back to what we know them to be able to play at.
It all comes down here. Once again, Reject take map 1 over on Krakoa. Now XO take us to one of the New York maps as we head into the ban draft. First ban should be the Mantis. We'll see if XO decide to make any sort of adjustments right after, because XO, we know how they treat the ban draft. They like to pick and choose depending on what kind of opponent they're playing against. But so far, the pattern has been trending towards XO saving that Cyclops first.
Yep, and that's exactly what they're going to do once again. And, I think another thing that's kind of worrying is, like, they went for the Cyclops pick first on Krakoa, and then Alonefills ended up making the swap over onto the Star-Lord. They kind of abandoned ship on their early attempts at trying to set Alonefills up for success on the Cyclops in the way they had previously. And now they're going to go back to that same Cyclops well that they've already kind of decided didn't work. So it's kind of like indecisiveness that we're seeing from them even in this phase.
Yeah, and the one-sided Gambit going over to Reject once again. Both sides now getting to have a chance at banning something away. XO will make the Cyclops one-sided, whereas Reject take away the Luna Snow. So with that poke potential that XO might want to work with here, if they want to go for a more dive style composition, XO won't have the White Fox Luna Snow team up to rely on in terms of self-peel for the strategists.
All right, gonna secure that Cyclops one-sided and a Phoenix ban and a Rocket one-sided for XO as well. Okay, all right, now we're cooking. All right, I was a little bit hesitant at first with the Cyclops stuffs. Now we're cooking. There is gonna be a Loki ban that comes out from Reject, and I do think that I can already see the compositions that Reject are playing. They're going for the triple with the Adam Warlock and the Loki, so a double res composition. They're denying XO any opportunity to go for the same thing on that side. If they want to try and play the Adam, they're going to have to try and play it with only one crack at that Karmic Revival.
And I really like this adjustment coming from XO. Yeah, you do invest a lot of that ban draft to make sure that the Rocket Raccoon is able to get his CYA down uncontested by taking away the End-Stalking Inferno, taking away the Ruby Rage.
Speaking of, look at Ace's ult charge versus Felix right now.
Yeah, and right now, both sides poking and prodding, looking for any opportunities. XO, the game plan is simple. Play fast, play aggressively, and Felix, like you said, very, very close to that CYA. That's the game plan for XO. Get the CYA down, rush onto Reject's face, and try to eliminate them before the Adam Warlock ultimate becomes a problem.
Hey, you can see like Ace, like he's even looking at his low HP Vanguards and not doing anything about it. There's that CYA, it's opening time. They've already managed to burn out that Soul Bond. A major resource for Reject has been burned through, and Sungjuk now getting in there on the Black Cat. He's torn up 3, and there we go. A quad for Sungjuk Woo and a team wipe. This is the XO we know and love.
Lightning may strike twice for XO. Sungjuk Woo made us realize that this Black Cat may still be a problem. And here on Championship Sunday, Sungjuk Woo comes back again. Reject tried to stack up together, right? Trying to stave off the dive that XO wanted to go for, albeit it was only Sungjuk Woo. But everyone on XO kind of just clambered right up into that small room, up to the right side from XO's POV, and Reject just wanted to try to bunker down, try to just use the region domain, use the Soul Bond to keep themselves sustained, but with the CYA giving everyone 40% damage amp, Sungjuk Woo just whips them all down.
A Soul Bond, regen domain, all things are temporary, and so too is Felix. He'll find that one out the hard way, but they're able to trade his life out for 2 more. Now the calling card coming out, and Sungjuk Woo gonna take down Lostro. Yaki will not escape Alonefill's gaze, and I got a funny feeling that this one last member of Reject, I can't even see who it is. It's Brownie on a sliver of HP on the Star-Lord, scuppering away. like a wounded dog. Will find a health pack and will get himself nestled in deep into the backline if we want to try and go for a cheeky little play here. Ruby Rage, how dare you lock me in a strangling prison? You're not locked in here with me. I'm locked in here with you, and you are not going to be stopping this card from coming through anytime soon as the KOs just keep going XO's way. They set a blistering pace through Central Park, 5.5 minutes.
I mean, XO's BRB literally means that Reject come out empty-handed. That's the only thing that they were able to draw out of XOXO01. And XO, they're executing this game plan to perfection. 5 minutes plus on the clock for them to try to get to this third checkpoint. And Reject just never find a foothold. And only now is when Seunghoon has access to the Raging Royal Flush. And is it going to be too little too late here?
I'll have to say, a lot more ultimates besides just that Raging Royal Flush, though, for Reject. So this is probably going to have to be a dry fight for XO, but they are still going to poke and get as much as they can out of it. There's going to be that Royal Flush, and even without the Galactic Legend, Brownie just drops Sungjuk Woo like a sack of bricks, and even more damage coming out. But the Invisible Boundary from Ace is going to give XO a little bit more staying power in this fight, and Brownie is going to see that and respect it and wait for his moment. And I bet you he is going to be taken to the skies before long here. We're also going to see Yaki letting the devil out. Is Brownie actually going to hold on to his ultimate? He'll fall courtesy of Sungjuk Woo in the backline, but so much damage coming out. And with that CYA, XO are able to get better at this fight. They just wait out that Royal Flush, and they come back. They had the winning hand all along, and Seunghoon gonna be pummeled there by Sungjuk Woo, making the swap over onto the Iron Fist. Lastro wants to lay down the dance floor, but XO are more than happy to square up. Now the Galactic comes out, but no one is around to hear the legends of Brownie, and I don't think they're gonna be passing that one down to their grandkids as XO continue to write their own legend, continue to march this cart forward, still with nearly 4 minutes in the time bank, taking a soft reset in this fight, but soon they will strike once more as Zaytha holding on to that strangling prison. He's looking for these flankers. He wants to lock them down. He is daring Yaki to come in and try and make a play, but it just isn't happening. So instead, he'll settle for the Vanguard lineup, a 2-for-1 special, and Zaytha has them both locked down. Piggy will not escape with his life, and this is going to be a Reject, forced to try and make a play. They get two. Yaki taking down Felix and Gargle, putting down Ace. So with the strategist lineup gone, the staying power for this fight in XO will be as just the same, but now, yeah, it's all over. It's all over. Reject have finally put their foot down and evicted XO for the time being, but still 3 minutes to get this full cap.
A very long and extended fight from both sides. XO really wanted to force it. The tempo is so high. I feel like this is the fastest I've ever seen XO play on a singular map. At the very least, Reject are able to stabilize, so they're able to reclaim some of the space that they initially lost because of how fast XO were playing. And now with Ultimate still waiting to come off of rotation, Reject looking like to ever so slightly be in that advantage. Gargoyle now has the Banhammer, so he can pressure the backline of XOXO01. Sungjuk Woo, you gotta make sure what hero he's playing every time he gets sent back to the spawn room, because now he's on the Daredevil. He's already switched to, what, I think it's his third hero now.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think the Daredevil's a good shout here. So there's going to be a lot of walls that you can hide behind and a lot of Sonic Pursuits that you can use to try and figure out where those backliners are. And Brownie's setting up a bit of a pinch here as XO going for a rotation. I think trying to flip the map on Reject so they can maybe, you know, pull the cart in rather than push it. But, you know, Reject are more than happy to pull right back. And Felix going to pop that CYA. And you can see Reject just evacuating, but Gargoyle got left behind. Yaki tried to come in for the save, and Alonefills just pummels him. Gargoyle trying to go for the Deadpool ult, but he's going to get caught there by the Carbon Crush from JT3. And all the KOs are once again going XO's way. And Rejects don't have anybody left to contest, and XO will complete the cap with time to spare.
I had a feeling Reject was relying on Lastro to at the very least extend that fight, but he kept holding on to the Fate of Both Worlds. Might have been a little bit of a greedy move on the side of Reject, because XO, they take full advantage of it. They had two strategist ultimates. Felix with the CYA allows XO to go in as aggressive as possible to try to find some sort of eliminations. Props to Alonefills finding Yaki over on the sky. It felt like Yaki trying to find the jump into the backline just gets absolutely lasered down, quite literally. And Reject, it just felt like they were flustered. They're like, wait, we already lost two members. What is going on? We need to use these ultimates, but they came too little too late.
But I think that's more of a symptom that rather than a cause. I think the actual failing was like they just got kind of outplayed on the map by XO, because when they tried to go for that map flip, you got to leave someone behind to contest the cart, and it was Gargoyle that got left behind. He started to feel all of the pressure of the damage that came out from XO, and then Yaki came in to try and make the save, and those were the two members that fell one by one, and suddenly, like you said, oh no, we've lost two key members. We have to pop this dance floor now, or we're not going to be able to get back in this fight. And since they weren't on the point, they were too far away, they were trying to, play around XO's map flip. They just weren't there.
Yep, and now XOXO01 on the defense side, doing the triple-triple that Reject tried to do. Putting Alone Fills on the Adam Warlock. Felix stays on the Rocket Raccoon. I wouldn't be surprised if XO do the same funneling tech that they did when they were on the attacking side, right? Give Felix all of the heals. Let the Vanguards of XOXO01 take as much damage as possible so that Felix is able to get that CYA quite almost uncontested.
Look at this composition from Reject, though. A triple Vanguard lineup with only Brownie on that Elsa, the only major source of damage, but Yaki moving over onto the Rogue. And with that Gambit team up, that is going to be a weapon, especially if Yaki's able to get in deep onto Alone Fills, Felix, any of these squishy backliners, as a matter of fact. But Alone Fills getting some good damage, building up to that Karmic Revival, keeping those snaps up and getting a little bit more healing going, keeping Reject at bay for the time being, but sooner or later, he's going to have to throw down. He'll throw out the Soul Bond, give his team a little bit more staying power, but they're going to have to back up and respect it as the wall comes out. Piggy has managed to burn down Zaytha. There will be a BRB that comes back out, but there will not be one for JT3, so you are now down 2 Vanguards, and 1 tick already going the way of Reject, and Piggy yeets that Strangling Prison in, and he'll catch the rest of XO, and they will all be bursted down. CYA forced out from Felix as a survival tool, and Ace is able to take down Piggy, punish his overextension, but nearly all 3 ticks have come through, and XO have to get a body on the point.
At the very least, JT3 is able to channel the portal so that everyone on XO will be 6 members strong. Songchaku switches over to the Magic because JT3 is playing the Doctor Strange, but that team up is not going to save you from a 1v1 win against Lostro. He's going to use the Loki copy onto the Raging Royal Flush. Brownie coming up huge with the Glartrox, is able to catch out 3, and 3 will go down. XO just falter at the tail end of that fight, and Reject control the first checkpoint.
And there was really no easy way out of that fight for XO because, Lastro having that first of the double flush, and Ace, of course, you gotta pop that invisible boundary, and that's just, Fish putting themselves into a barrel for that Glartrox. Brownie just yanks them all out of the invisible boundary, says, come on over here, and pops him down. And Zaytha getting caught slipping again there. Brownie gonna, give him a swift reminder of what happened not 10 seconds prior, and go in deep for a little bit more burst damage, trying to burst him down. Won't find the Elim, but you can tell Zaytha is going to be playing scared and holding on to that Strangling Prison. He's actually going to yeet it in, catches onto Brownie, potentially gets his revenge, but it's broken by the walls that come out from Piggy, and Brownie is still on a tear.
Seunghoon then gets the second rotation after Royal Flush, is able to find Ace. As a Reject, they're looking very healthy in this Ultimate Economy. XO still have to navigate a little more of that percentage point to at the very least contest what Reject have. And this is looking like a repeat from map number 1, right? Reject, with so much of that Ultimate Economy and XO being so far behind, means that XO, if they get ultimates online, Reject will have answers every single time of the way. And if Reject really wants to, they could even play as aggressive as possible because they know they have the advantage.
And Yaki's even going to take some of that ult charge away, goes in with the Heartbreaker. JT3 going to put him down, though. Trades out for Zaytha. We got to get a body on the cart. Less than a meter to go. Gargoyle with the Sonic Seduction, trying to keep the members of XO at bay. Alone Fills will take down Brownie, and there's another Strangling Prison that comes out from Piggy, but he's going to find 2 off of the walls coming through there, off the backboard. He lands that one, and that is going to be a Reject claiming this card. JT3 doing all he can to try and stop it. As a Strange Portal is now going to come out from Yaki. Make sure there's reinforcements online. 2 members of Reject have fallen, but they will be back before long. There's another Sonic Seduction, but Brownie is not falling for it, breaking his ankles as a matter of fact. Felix with the CYA. XO are really giving everything just to stop this last meter from coming through, but a Glartrox is going to cart them off to the Netherworld, and Reject will claim this realm for their own.
And sure enough, Reject will get themselves over the line. XO invested so much. I mean, to be fair, XO did deem that this fight might actually be winnable for them. Yaki goes back into the spawn room, goes off the Doctor Strange onto the Rogue, but you might make another adjustment. Might be the Daredevil. No, it's going to be the Wolverine to take advantage of that environmental KO potential.
No, it's the Daredevil.
Right at the stairs, and then he switches over to the Daredevil. The moment I'm like, hey, I think I know why. And then Reject's like, yeah, nah, you're wrong.
We were both right. He just wanted to bait us. He's playing 5D chess with the casters
he's like
now.
Stutter stepping us, yeah.
Yeah, he's saying XO's not enough a challenge. We also gotta throw the casters for a loop, but Ain't no one being thrown for a loop right now as Lastro with another Rage and Royal Flush and all the damage being pumped out from Brownie, but Ace is very evasive. Not going to be able to evade for too long, though, as Brownie will take him down. He'll be res right back up, but Sungjukwu and Zaytha both also fell in that fight, and Reject going to push the line of scrimmage all the way up to XO's spawn door and make it uncomfortable. And a Strangling Prison just to confirm that Elium onto JT3. Keep the staggers going, and look at how close that cart is getting to a full cap, and Reject need it.
And Reject also have to reach Royal Flush. This should be a walk in the park, quite literally, for Reject. XO don't have any ultimates to rely on, and here comes that flush to try to force away XOXO01. Lastro will find Zaytha. XO down one member. Can you come back here as Piggy is able to extend this lead?
And Lastro getting a triple in that fight, and I think, yeah, this one is all done and dusted. JT3, he makes a swap over onto the Devil Dino, but he looks about as scary as the dinosaur on my GM. He's like, it's just not enough. It's desperation. Like you said, they didn't have any tools to be able to stop that one from coming through, you know? And it's the ult economy kind of coming back to bite them a little bit. You know, they make some of those swaps after point A, and then they don't have a defensive utility for that second rotation of the Rage and Royal Flush, and sure, they're able to kite out the first one that comes out on that third point there, but they still didn't really get a whole lot of work done on the strategist front to have, like, you know, invisible boundary, even a Kumiho Unleashed to absorb some of it, and all you can really try to do is throw those beefy bodies like Zaytha on the Venom and JT3 over on the Devil Dino and hope that, you know, maybe it takes a little while to chunk through those bigger health bars. Maybe we can get some squishies on deck, and I think the only chance would have been maybe a lone fills with Ruby Rage, but that was a pipe dream, and now Reject telling XO to keep dreaming as they are going to get the full cap and even best XO's time, 243 to 152. So XO going to be first at bat here on extra innings.
We'll see if Brownie is able to come up huge. I mean, the adjustment over to the Ulsa Bloodstone did work out for them so well, especially when XO ran that triple composition. Brownie still does a lot of that percent health damage with the Elephant Gun. And Reject lobbying off of Brownie going crazy on the Elsa Bloodstone, not just from the left clicks, but also from the Apex Predators coming up huge time and time again. Catching, what, 2-3 members of XO every single time? But now XO on the attacking side once again here in overtime with 1:49 on the clock. How far can XO go before it's Reject's turn?
Now they're going to have to set the bar as high as they possibly can, make it impossible for Reject to clear. You're definitely going to be hoping for more than just 1 or 2 ticks. And again, keep an eye on Ace's ult charge in comparison to Felix. They're going to try and play for that same thing that got them in the front door the first time. And you can tell Brownie is kind of privy to it too as well. He's a little hesitant to do damage. He doesn't think he can confirm an Elim. He'll burst Zaytha down, but the healing will be there. Actually, no, it will. The anti-heal, as a matter of fact, coming through from Sunghoon, and now XO are going to be realizing they played this just a little bit too slow. They gave Reject an opening, and they have shut it.
Huge fight win for Reject. That gives a lot of time for Lastro to stack up his God of Mischief available. It's going to be inevitable, right? Lastro will copy Sunghoon. That's playing the gambit so that Lastro is able to utilize the Raging Royal Flush to try to force away XO, who's also trying to get a funnel going, right? Felix on the Rocket Raccoon, already at 73% with the CYA, but Lastro will for sure be able to match it, but Sungjukwu is able to get that 1v1 in the side room.
And there's not going to be a BRB because remember, Rocket Band and XO are the only ones with access to that. That will slow things down, but Reject want to speed it right back up. Here's that Raging Royal Flush now coming out from Lastro, but Felix had enough time to get the CYA, so a ton of overhealth and a ton of damage amp. Sunghoon will be bursted down, but Gargoyle coming back in, taking down Ace. It's a 2-for-2 trade coming out. XO have gotten themselves to the front door. Reject still seeking to evict them. JT3 will be burned down there by Gargoyle. Only 15 seconds left, and Reject still holding strong and starting to come up to a few more ultimates here. And XO, they've got to make a play, and they've got to make it now. JT3 swapping over onto the Double Dino, walking through Alone Villas' portal, and hello, there was a tasty little morsel on the other side. He'll chomp Sunghoon down, and even catch Piggy back up against the wall, quite literally, burst him down as well. And now Lastro next on the chopping block. 3 key members of Reject have been dealt with, and they are looking for a 4th in Gargoyle, and he cannot escape the jaws of fate as JT3 will clamp them down, and XO will have this first point.
I know we talked about the Devil Dinosaur a few times, right? Sometimes it just feels like it's a little bit of a troll pick, but JT3 realizes that, hey, we need to find a way to fight Reject. and Reject are very constricted to a zone. Piggy channeling the portal to try to cut off the push from XOXO01. Sungjae going down is already bad news.
A bullet from another dimension, and a Glartrox from this one! And this is going to be just taking XO so far off of the point. They're bursted down by the Maelstrom of Madness, and the cart will stop just shy of where that first gate opened. It's not exactly a high bar to clear, but for XO, hey, you got that first point, and that on its own is pretty huge. It's not easy, but it's winnable.
It's winnable for XO, but it's also very, very winnable for Reject. Both sides, you could argue, is at a 50-50 when it comes to who's going to come out here in this map. Brownie has been absolutely insane on the Elsa Bloodstone, not just from the left clicks like we talked about before going into this round, but also with the Apex Predator. That's 3 for 3 now for a multi-man Gartrox in favor of Brownie, and that literally just caught XO off guard, it feels like, every single time, right? Reject are just never prepared to try to combat what Brownie is about to throw at them, and it's just a giant Gartrox controlling a whole lane that XO are looking to control.
And I do think, you know, I'm glad that you're highlighting Brownie on this Elsa, because I do think that, you know, say XO were able to win this map and this series goes deep, I think that Elsa is going to be something you see a lot of from the side of Reject here in this series particularly, because I think Elsa's just good against everything that XO want to play. Venom, I mean, Elsa's one of the best dive duelists, or anti-dive duelists out there right now. And even in close range, not even against dive compositions, the burst damage against something like a Groot is just too much to withstand sometimes. So he's getting a ton of value, doing a ton of damage, and building up to a ton of those Glartroxes that are, like, fight win conditions all on their own the way he's using them.
Now going into Reject's turn on the attacking side. This time they have about 2:40 on the clock. A little bit more time than XO had on their turn, but Reject looking to get fast, get aggressive. XO, however, they're not going to rely on the triple this time around. They're going to have a little more damage at their arsenal, right? Putting Olympus onto the Cyclops, who's already taken down pretty low. So XO needed to be a little bit careful when it comes to taking all of this damage, and Reject, the win condition is simple, right? Either get Lastro's ultimate online or Seunghoon's, but Brownie going down, that's a lot of that damage out the window for Reject.
It's going to slow the pace a little bit, but Reject can afford it. But Satha doesn't want to give them the luxury of a reset. He is going to give Piggy a hard one, walling him off from the rest of his team, and now JT3 pushing the line of scrimmage further, and a nice little carbon crush there onto Yaki. And that is going to burn Reject's time bank down to 145. Still enough time to take two pretty good fights here, but XO, the first one is now in the rear view, and they got to focus on what's in front of them.
Yep, and what's next? Lastro with the God of Mischief, maybe Seunghoon with the Raging Royal Flush if the fight goes long enough. XO need to try to shut it down both times. I'm looking at Felix with the CYA, already at 93 and counting. Ace is still a little bit further away, so he needs to come up huge if he's able to get the invisible boundary in time to, at the very least, if the fight goes long, XO will have a way to stabilize.
And there's going to be that God of Mischief. You can tell the Royal Flush is inevitable. CYA is now going to come out from Felix. They got to try and find something with this amp damage before that second rotation comes out. JT3 with the Sonic Seduction, looking to try and lock down some members of Reject, but the cover is good, and nobody is going to be falling for JT3's charms today. Maybe, you know, wore the wrong perfume, but Lastro got sniped out there by Alone Fills, and that is going to be a huge KO. Reject again.
Ace.
Looking to try and take a reset. Someone channels a Royal Flush, but Alone Fills is able to take one down. We got to make the most out of this Royal Flush, so Yaki goes in. He'll take down Ace. It's just not good enough. He's going to be res right back up, and he'll have the invisible boundary when he comes back. And Alone Fills with a parting shot for Yaki. And Reject, try as they might, they only strike blood onto one, and it's JT3 who won't be there for the next fight. There's still a strange TP play that could come through for XO, and we're under 30 seconds.
This might be a worst case scenario for Reject. They don't have any of that Raging Royal Flush available now. Going into Final Fight territory, it's all offense now. Brown needs to come up huge with the Gartrox. He's able to find Sungjae Woo. Ace is going to use the invisible boundary to buy enough time for Sungjae Woo to, at the very least, get back into this fight. And Alone Fills takes advantage of it, takes down Piggy, and Reject will have to resort to this portal play. Gargoyle and Yaki need to come up absolutely huge with their combo.
Sonic Seduction, Yaki, like you say, let the devil out. They've managed to catch onto Alone Fills, and Sungjae Woo making the swap over onto the Spider-Man, trying to get back fast. Gargoyle taking the duel with JT3, reigning supreme as the one true White Queen, and Reject encroaching on this first tick. Gargoyle will have another fist flying, catching Ace with a nice little swift roundhouse kick, and here comes that play coming out now from Alone Fills. There's another opportunity. The Thing now swapping the Xaytha swapping to the Thing, and there's going to be another Devil Dino swap, a very tanky composition now coming out from XO. They want to give Felix as much ult charge as possible, build up to the CYA, and he's got it, and he pops it, and the damage is now going to come out, and Reject are going to be on the back foot. They're going to back up away from the point, give XO a little bit more space, and Xaytha with a haymaker pummels Brownie. He's got another for Sunghoon, letting the fist fly. Lastro, you want to square up? I've got some hands with your name on it. They are rated E for everybody. You can all get it, and XO can get in this series. They take it 1-1 now. This series ain't gonna be no blowout. For the first time, XO have taken a map off of Reject.
The dream is alive for XO. They look down and out in map 1, but coming into Central Park, they had a plan and they executed perfectly every single time. Rely on Felix with the CYA because you had to. You invested half of your band draft to make sure the CYA comes in uncontested. XO are able to get the value that they needed from this band draft. And what better way to put it when this Felix comes in with the CYA to put Central Park to rest in their favor.
Yeah, they swap to a triple Vanguard composition and just give Felix all of the healing. Like, Ace even swaps to the Adam Warlock at the end there, you know, just hoping that maybe he can do enough damage. They weren't going to risk Felix falling with like 98% ult charge. That was the plan, and it came through at just the right moment. And this is the stat line I want to see from XO, all right? It sounds crazy, but I want to see Sung Jukwu with 15 deaths, because that means he's getting active. That means he's doing something. That means he's throwing Reject's backline into disarray, and try as he might, Brownie could not stop the onslaught that came their way. And just like I said, for the first time, XO take a map off of Reject. They say, hey, Reject, you want to keep that crown in the Asia region? You want to challenge Gen G? You want to make it to LAN? It's not going to be easy, my friends. We don't go down so easy.
It just feels like XO are powering up little by little throughout the entirety of 2026, bringing in some extra help from other countries, right? XOXO01, they used to be a full Thai roster, now bringing in JT3, bringing in Felix from a little bit further up north, right? From Japan, from Korea, and XO also bringing in that head coach. And a little bit of a fun fact, right? Dobie is the head coach for XO. He also played on Reject. So there's a chance that Dobie has a general idea of what Reject want to throw at them because he's played with some of these players in the past.
Yeah, he might know a thing or two, and he might also have like a smug grin on his face because, you know, he comes into the fray and XO finally get the job done. But job is not quite over yet. If XO want to claim that land spot, they're going to have to best Reject 2 more times throughout this series, and it's just heating up. I can't wait. I hope we get to go to 5 just for the drama, just for the cinema, and I hope, chat, that you will be here to see all of it. We've got map number 3 on the other side of a quick break. Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss it.
Stay 10-5.
Long streak broken with XO taking a map off of Reject, or almost a year. It's been around 8 months. Gotta say though, XO, they had the pace, it was fast, and RC managed to keep up and nearly won it out in deep overtime. Dan, how are you feeling, dude? How's the heart rate?
It's gone through the roof, I feel like. It's been a roller coaster.
How many heart attacks?
Right? Probably 6 or 7. Anyway, XO, it just feels like every single time they get a little bit better every single match. And I feel like we may have gotten to a point where XO may be at the same level that Reject are. But then again, this is a best of 5.
That's a bold claim,
It's now been knocked down to a best of 3. Can Reject hold on, or is XO, is this their moment?
And something that I think, you know, is definitely worth mentioning is just like how poor that performance was on Krakoa to like turn it around and come to the Central Park one. And they do it by kind of slowing the pace down so that they can speed it up with the rocket. And I think that is a good game plan, but I don't know that it's one that they're going to be able to execute on every other single map, especially now that you kind of saw on the, you know, on that second inning that Reject kind of had the read on it. They just, you know, fumbled it a little bit when it came to their own attacking side. So I think like when it comes to Reject's map pick and also this pick and ban phase, and then also like you know, the way that the map is going to play out, I wonder if XO is going to be able to get away with that again, or if they have more tricks in the bag.
You know, I think the pick and ban phase went a lot more solid for XO this time around. We did see a solid backline coming out from Reject, map 1, or game 1, excuse me, we saw Loki, White Fox. This time around, we saw, I'm sorry, the Gambit, White
Liger,
Fox.
look away.
Don't tell Liger.
Cover
Last
your
game,
eyes.
we had the Loki Gambit, and that was still super strong, but Sunjuk Wu managed to make his way in. And I think that's a very important part, that we still managed to see a broken backline for Reject, even though it was probably as statistically strong as it could be.
I mean, XO are not afraid to overhaul their ban draft, right? But the ban draft from map 1 was wildly different from what they did for the ban draft for map number 2, right? Putting a lot of that resources onto the Rocket Raccoon. They get the save onto Rocket Raccoon, but they amplify it, jokes aside, even further, right? Taking away the Cyclops, taking away the Phoenix, so that when they want to go for the CYA, it is relatively uncontested. Reject, every single time that CYA was up, they either had to run away or try to burst it down to the best of their ability. And without Phoenix or the Cyclops, like one-shotting the amplifier, Reject definitely got taken a bit back there.
Oh yeah. So Museum of Contemplation will be out. It's going to be XOXO starting off on the defensive side. If we think pacing was really important for both of these teams, it absolutely was back on Central Park. I don't know if we'll be able to see either team maintain the same aggressive breakneck pace as they did back then, but if XOXO starts off on the defense, they may have a chance to continue a tradition that we saw a lot in Pacific, and maybe, just maybe, CV, we could see a spawn hold against Reject.
I mean, I think that's a little bit of a tall order. A spawn hold against Reject. We're talking Yao Ming and Stiletto Heels levels of tall, all right? Like, I can see them, like, there's a world where they win this map, but it's gonna be a slobber knocker, right? Like, there's no way it's gonna be that one-sided up against a team the caliber of Reject. But hey, you know, crazier things, I suppose, have happened, but we will see what crazy things this pick and ban draft has in store. My question to you, Dan, is going to be, do you think that XO can manage to secure that rocket again?
It depends on what Reject decide to try to approach this. I wouldn't be surprised if Reject also make adjustments on their end, right? Maybe put a little more emphasis on the Rocket Raccoon a little bit earlier in the ban draft. Maybe XOXO01, they want to save something else rather than the Rocket Raccoon, but it's going to depend on when Reject decide, hey, we probably need to take away this Rocket Raccoon that has been so reliant for XOXO01. And as we get further and further into this ban draft, so far Reject on their end has been relatively the same. Ban out the Mantis, secure the Gambit for yourself, and do they go for the Gambit one side? They do once again.
I think regardless, by the way, of what does come through this pick and ban draft, something I don't think we'll see in it, but that I do want to keep an eye on is going to be Brownie on that Elsa, because I think this is a phenomenal map when it comes to Elsa, especially once things start to get a little bit close quarters. Like, it has really long hallways that kind of lend itself quite well to the poke phase, but sooner or later, you got to get in close quarters and you got to throw down, and I do think that that's where, you know, that Elsa pick could potentially come out. Rocket bans on both sides, so we will not be cosmically amplifying any yarn today, but we might be engaging flight mode, as we do get a Luna Protect this time around for XO8. If you can't have Rocket, you know, we'll take the next best thing.
Hey, you talked about it, right? Poke is being very, very important here on the Museum of Contemplation. Lots of those long lanes that you can just shoot down from. And XO getting both saves on things that have a lot of that range, right? The Cyclops and the Luna Snow could easily control the main area of the museum, as XO will take away Piggy's Groot. So that means if Zeta wants to run this Groot, which he is right now, it will be one-sided and uncontested.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say uncontested, because Yaki is playing Wolverine, and I think that's about the most contested you could potentially feel as a Groot player. But hey, let's hope...
At the very least, Yaki's also contested, right? JT3 on the Penny Parker makes it a little bit more difficult for Yaki to look for those kidnaps. So
that's true, and no Rocket also means no jump pack, so you can't, you know, just literally take Zeta for a ride up into the Raptors and then slam him down onto the ground from like 20 stories up. But Reject going for a very heavy duty front line here with the Emma and the Devil Dino. So 2 anchor vanguards, and without a Groot there, I guess, you know, that's probably the best way that you can go for this kind of front-to-back playstyle. They're able to take down Sunjuk early on. Sunghoon caught him slipping, and JT3 gets carted off away from his webs and steps into gargoyles, and that is going to be Reject just pushing XO further and further back. And all the while, they kept 3 on the carts, so, you know, blink and you miss it. We're already in Stagger City here for XO if they want to try and stop this point A cap from coming through. He looks with a nice little snowball there onto Gargoyle, but there's that God of Mischief already coming out from Lastro. There's already a Raging Royal Flush. Zeta already cut to ribbons, chopped down, and Sungjuk Woo and Felix will be joining him quite shortly. And that is a team wipe and an easy first point cap for Reject. So, Keg, you know, I know you're not here, but what was that about a spawn hold?
XOXO01 just got out-tempoed, it felt like, right? Reject utilizing their composition, right? Take as much damage as possible so that either Lastro or Seunghoon, but it's really Lastro because his ult energy cost is way lower than the likes of Seunghoon on the Gambit himself. And we're able to just get that Loki copy onto the Royal Flush and just push away XO. They had no response. Zeta was probably your best bet with the Strangling Person to try to neutralize what Reject wanted to throw at them, but it just came too little too late. And now coming into this next fight, how can XOXO01 hold? Sungjuk Woo going down first is already bad news again.
Yeah, it's like a defensive Pharaoh leap to cart Sungjuk Woo just straight to Brownie, delivers him on a silver platter, and Brownie eats him right up. Invisible Boundary coming out from Ace. Gargoyle can't burst him down, so a fair bit of damage, but there's that Glartrox, and you can see JT3 being carted off into unfriendly territory. He is surrounded by sharks, and Reject will be taking a bite out of him in due time, and XO still on the back foot. Reject, I don't think this cart has stopped for a second.
I don't think so either. XO deemed that this fight might actually be winnable. There's the Wombo combo, Strangling Prison into the Ruby Rage, but they come out empty-handed. Piggy is able to bring this man advantage over to Reject once again. Last Stand going to be invested as well, and the features lights up red. Reject are just running over XO.
Yeah, and like Sungjuk Woo only now coming up onto that calling card, and I think a big part of the problem is the fact that he's trying to go for some of these flanks and set up pinches, but he's getting caught out every time, whether it's by Yaki, Seunghoon, Brownie. They're all privy to his tricks and not letting him get away with them. Teleport play coming up from Zeta. Here's a new trick for you. And Piggy not going to be falling for that one. Was not born yesterday. In fact, was born prehistorically. Taking down JT3, Yaki trying to cut down the Sorcerer Supreme and will do so. And Gargoyle now with the Sonic Seduction, locking down Sungjuk Woo again. This is point B cap. It ain't done yet, but oh, it's coming.
I'm not sure if staying on this black cap by Sungjuk Woo is the correct play. He's stuck with it for so long, right? Usually he's making adjustments, moving to different heroes on the fly, but at that moment, it just felt like Sungjuk Woo was like, yeah, I think I can still find value with this black cat. We've seen him do it time and time again, but that time it just felt like Reject had his number, and Sungjuk Woo now finally making that adjustment over to the Spider-Man.
I think, at least for him, it only works when he gets, like, he gets value early on, and he can kind of translate that into a really fast calling card, and just kind of, like, use that as, like, a snowball.
See if Sungjuk Woo is able to find that snowball that he's trying to look for on the Spider-Man. He's just
he'll find a fireball.
Around. Yeah, he'll gonna take a face full of Phoenix Force by Brownie. He's just clicking away. Will get himself a double. XOXO01, you need to find that regroup fast. They're trying to find a way to get some tempo going, putting JT3 onto the Vanguard Deadpool so that he's able to find an ultimate, maybe use the Banhammer to get some disruption onto Reject's backline, but XO, look at all of these adjustments coming in. Ace over onto the Jeff as well to try to team up with this Deadpool. Can XO bring the tempo back to their favor?
And Banhammer that ends up coming out from JT3, but Zeta tries to go in and capitalize off of it. He'll be under so much pressure and carried off away. He tries to get to safety, but Yaki carries him right back to the danger, and Brownie is the danger. Just clicking heads with that Phoenix, and over on the other side, here's her husband, and Lone Phil's hitting the Biden blast, taking down Piggy. That is going to be one trade, and now with the spawn advantage in favor of XO, you need more than that, but it's going to be at least enough for the time being. What a freeze from Felix from downtown! Woo! And a headshot for Brownie as well, and finally Reject will be slowed down for the time being, but still nearly 3 minutes to complete this push.
That was a crucial pick by Sungjuk Woo, taking out Seunghoon, who had the Raging Royal Flush to allow Reject to give themselves even more of that momentum. Now with XOXO01 stabilizing, they are given some time to get their own ultimates online so that when Reject go for their push, there will be some resistance on the side of XO with the Freedom Charge, with the Fate of Both Worlds coming up in a few short moments. Seunghoon, though, will pull the trigger, allows Brownie to get the damage amp, take down Sungjuk Woo, but XOXO01, they're fine with this. They're able to, at the very least, match what Reject are going for.
It was a good adaptation, though, by Reject. The Ensong Inferno was forced out, so they doubled down on it with that that Royal Flush now, but XO still trying to make something happen. Gargoyle just gunning alone fills down up there on the high ground. Freedom charge now from Zaytha, though. Gonna make it difficult for Reject to go on in there. Sungjuk Woo catching onto the back line. Doesn't even need to use the spectacular spin. Just one quick little web slung Sunghoon's way is gonna be enough. Pulling in the enemies back, and this is just Reject being trounced right now. XO finally getting their feet beneath them, and 145, it's starting to feel more holdable.
Now Reject. What is the plan? Yaki forgoes the last stand, switches over to the Daredevil, deems that information is way better than crowd control or some of that percent health damage. Piggy also having access to the Devil Beast Rampage, he's going to be the one that's going to have to initiate a rushdown for Reject. But with Sungjuk Woo threatening that spectacular spin, that backline needs to be oh so careful.
Zaytha trying to check Yaki at the door, and does get a door open himself, and it'll lead right to the back line of XO. Well, Yaki turns right around and meets him there, but not going to deter him. Sungjuk Woo going in, has a spectacular spin. He'll let it rip, and with all the damage coming through from the Ruby Rage as well, he'll trade his life out for Piggy's. And again, with how fast Spider-Man is, he'll be back before long, so that does favor XO, even without the spawn advantage. But they are going to be sending more members back to the spawn as Brownie clicking heads again with the Phoenix. Will take down JT3, and Gargoyle going in, letting the Deagles fly. Has his sights trained on the back line. Will take down one. Can't quite confirm the KO onto Ace, but Piggy taken to the skies will skewer Sungjuk Woo, and that is going to be Reject once again pushing the tempo.
Yeah, XOXO01 could have gotten way more value with the spectacular spin, but that White Fox Luna Snow team up is just proving to be so problematic. That should have been a multi-man KO for Sungjuk Woo if it were for Sunghoon with the TP, right? Giving the shield, giving some extra healing for Reject's backline, and that was enough peel to at the very least stave off what XO wanted to go for, but XO still looking to get one more fight down.
Yaki catches Ace trying to go for that Jeff ultimate, releases his Luna Snow from the clutches. Teleport play coming out from JT3, and now Felix with the Fate of Both Worlds trying to keep XO alive in this fight for as long as possible. I think did get the better Luna ult from the side as Lastros is going to expire first, but with the Kumiho, they can still bolster their defenses and mount a quite strong offense as Piggy letting those axes of Icar fly. Will find one onto Alone Fills. Lastro taking down Sungjuk Woo. He'll get a nice little two-piece there onto Felix as well as the overtime wick continues to burn, and so too do XO's chances of stopping this attack. It's gonna be a Feast of the Abyss that comes out from Zaytha. JT3 with the Maelstrom of Madness will take down Gargoyle, and that is your one. He's got the Eye of Agamotto now. He'll let that one rip. Goes in deep. An air burst missile, but he will be the one exploding as Yaki with one single Billy Club shot will put him down. Goes in deep, trying to pressure Alone Fills. Alone Fills using some of that movement, the concussive blast, taking himself up into the sky, but will sooner or later have to come back down and face Yaki's wrath. And like a dog barking up a tree, he is just daring him, begging him. He lets the Ruby Rage fly, but it's just not enough. It goes wide. It's a 7-10 split, but Brownie hits everything. It's a strike right onto the head of Sungjuk Woo. Another Jeff ultimate, but as Brownie with the Ensong Inferno crashes back down, it's too much damage. Ace just can't get a damn thing done, and Reject are looking to complete this offense as Lastro with the Ice Arts piercing the heart of JT3 and piercing the heart of XO's defenses. It looked to be impregnable for the time being, but Reject have found a crack in the armor, and they have managed to get in there and get the full cap.
It was labored for Reject, but they get the full push down in the end. Now the ball is in XO's court. Are you able to match what Reject did just now? Are you able to trigger overtime once again here in the Museum of Contemplation? It's going to be so hard if XO don't get the momentum that they want, especially in those first few fights here. So these again, first few fights going to be so important to give yourself enough time to, at the very least, push from second to third, because arguably that is the hardest push in the entirety of this game.
The one thing I will say, though, Dan, is that with overtime spawns, you know, that distance, it ends up feeling a lot shorter than it actually is. You know, you can, in a regular situation, you know, it might take you, like, up to maybe like on a bad day up to 4 fights, but you can get it done in 2 good ones, including the stagger fight towards the end if you just time it right. So I think, you know, if you're XO, your first order of business is just make sure you complete the point A and B cap, and anything else that you do from there you can do in OT. It doesn't really matter because you bled Reject's time bank out. All you got to do is complete it and take it to extra innings, and you still got a shot.
What's the solution for XO? You're trying to utilize the dive against Reject, who have access to the Luna Snow and White Fox team up. The double charm, the CC potential from both Lastro and Sunghoon is insurmountable for XO, right? They're trying to make this dive work, but it's just every single time it feels like it just flounders. Whenever they have opportunities to go for multi-man KOs, they only result in like one at most.
Yaki on the Ultron as well, damage boosting Brownie with some of those drones. I think had one onto Gargoyle as well, so I mean that's 2 huge hit scans that are gonna have quite a bit of damage coming their way. Without a Mantis, it's going to be the next best thing, and you can see Zaytha feeling the full force of that. Some more healing going to be necessary to keep our Groot in the fray here. And you can even see Reject they're respecting XO, just kind of baiting them in to Brownie's sights. Brownie going on a little bit of a flank here. A nice little easy 2-tap onto Ace, and I mean, if you're XO, like, yeah, you don't want to fight this. They just tuck their tails between their legs and they run back, but Felix won't be able to get back to safety, and Gargoyle will commemorate the occasion with a nice little selfie.
Huge first fight win for Reject. Now the momentum is starting to fizzle out for XO. They have to find adjustments quickly. Zaytha goes off his signature Groot and goes over to the Devil Dino. Seongjae staying on the Black Cat, still deems that this pick might be the solution for XO if they want to get any sort of momentum going. But with Brownie just frying the backline, this is so difficult.
Yeah, you saw how aggressive Gargoyle went in there. It makes it so difficult to dislodge Brownie from that angle. So every time you try to push up, you know, all the Vanguard lineup from Reject have to do is just go in with that aggression, and then Brownie is just set up for success. And if he gets even one in that fight, it just gets so easy, especially if it's onto a backliner like Ace. And I think that's the main person that he has been targeting with this this particular angle.
And with how ahead Reject are as well with the ultimate economy, this is an uphill battle for XO. They're still navigating towards those strategist ultimates. Alone Fills will have the Ruby Rage, but it's only going to part the Reject sea, it feels like, because everyone on Reject should be aware that this is incoming, but with how aggressive Reject are, they're bringing the fight to XO.
And XO are going to take that fight as best they can. The Invisible Boundary will help catch out Gargoyle, and Zaytha will confirm that elim, but Brownie is still just clicking. He's got Ace in his sights and has got his sights firmly locked on victory. Yaki, with the Rage of Ultron, will unleash his rage on 2 members of XO. A nice little double for him, and we're down to 1:40. And XO, they used 2 big ultimates to try and make that one happen, and they got nada.
Seongjae now goes back to the Spider-Man. We see his signature pick shine once again, but he has to come up huge. But with how many resources Reject have still, XO being so behind with 1:20 on the clock. How do XO approach this? They're going to have to look for different ways to try to poke down Reject, but with how short range XO are in terms of their team composition, it's going to be very difficult for XO to find those opportunities. It's all going to come up to Alone Fill, so this is a great step in the right direction.
He also knows Lastro is caught out away from the rest of the team. That is easy pickings for Alone Fill, so he'll find his second in the fight. Gonna force resources out from Reject. Sunghoon nearly falls. A couple of percentage that Kumiho Unleash will have it, but it's going to be forced out without Lastro there. And now the ultimate's flying. A Psionic Seduction will lock Sunghoon down. Very CCable, it turns out, those large Kumiho are. And they're not going to be able to confirm the elim, but they will force a lot more resources coming out of Reject's side as Piggy has to use the Freedom Charge as well just to help keep the rest of the team alive. XO still keeping this one going, but only 30 seconds. They have to try and find a way to stick the landing. Spectacular spin from Seongjae will force out the Fate of Both Worlds from Lastro. There's no more ultimates online for XO, but they're coming up on some big ones. They need to find them now. Piggy traded up for Seongjae, and you will take that every day of the week, and this may be the last day you get the chance to. Heaven's Retribution now coming up from Zaytha, and there's the Ruby Rage from Alone Fills, fighting a 2-piece, nearly the triple. But with the help of JT3, he'll put Gargoyle down nonetheless and find the triple anyway onto Lastro, and that's the first hurdle cleared. Next one.
Keep up the momentum.
Ooh, better late than never, says XOXO01. They're able to get the first checkpoint down thanks to the Wombo combo with the Heaven's Retribution into the Ruby Rage. Zaytha and Alone Fills were able to team up and execute their combo perfectly. They give themselves the 2-man advantage and just had to quickly clean up the rest of Reject. And now XO, they complete step 1. Step 2, though, it might just be as difficult as that first one.
Brownie does have an angle, and Alone Fill's trying to challenge him. This high ground is going to be very oppressive as the cart is rounding this first corner. Once it gets past there, they could potentially dislodge him, just, you know, the old-fashioned way, get on up there and pressure him out. But for now, it's Alone Fills who has to try and take this duel, and it's not one that he's favored in. Hello, Piggy. Welcome. This is definitely not your spawn. You are in the wrong neighborhood. Brownie with the End Song Inferno goes deep and will catch Felix, and I guess that makes Piggy's sacrifice worth it. Even getting out that Kumiho Unleashed as XO trying to stay in this fight, trading out Sungjuk Woo for Yaki, but Azatha grounded once again by Brownie on this oppressive angle. It's going to be Reject winning the fight.
You need to find a way to deal with Brownie. Like, every time he finds these eliminations, it just seems like he's just frying uncontested. Nobody on XO is providing enough pressure to force away Brownie from these off angles, and it's just XO struggling to find these opportunities. Gargoyle bringing the fight over to XO and is able to find that elim onto JT3, and with all of this pressure coming in from Reject and not XO, means that everyone in the backline of Reject could just sit pretty and just do what they can, just free deal, do as much damage uncontested, while XO are struggling to get to those different angles.
Yeah, it's this may be a museum, but Brownie has got a shooting gallery the whole way through. Big ultimate's coming online for XO, but they're both going to be defensive in nature, right? Like, you're not going to be able to get a whole lot done with the Psionic Seduction. You're probably going to be trying to, like, lock Yaki down. We'll see how they end up using it, and that's exactly how they're going to do it, but they end up using the Fate of Both Worlds as well, so both of their biggest utilities are going to be burned, and it doesn't matter because Brownie is the one doing the burning. He's still letting those shots fly, trying to take down Sungjuk Woo, but Sungjuk Woo will find a safe haven for the time being, and the pressure is starting to mount now. XO starting to get their feet beneath them again, starting to walk. Reject trying to stop them before they can run, and now with the charm going through, Ace is going to be able to take down Brownie. He's finally dealt with, but the Freedom Charge, though, from Piggy is going to give Reject a safe haven from which to play with. Another charm trying to lock him down, but can't confirm the elim there. Kumiho now unleashed for Sunghoon, and Reject have even more staying power, and they will not be dislodged from this cart. XO trying to keep it rolling, but Ace with the Kumiho Unleashed, it's just not going to be enough. Zatha coming up with the Freedom Charge. They're going to have to invest it. They need to use it now or never as they're running out of health bars. He'll bring his team back from the brink, but Alone Feels cannot be brought back. Sungjuk Woo coming up on letting the devil out, and his last Rose Dance Floor expires. That's the win condition now for XO. He's got to come up huge with his ultimate, but he's being checked by every single member of XO, and they are denying them the opportunity to make it through that crucial second hurdle. And Yaki, with a righteous cross to Felix, will put Reject up 2-1. Match point, land points on the line.
Although XO have to take the loss here, they put up one hell of a fight here in the museum. But Reject, they were able to get early control. That early momentum just meant that XO, just that entire map, just felt like they were on the back foot. It had to come up in those clutches. That's where XO were able to convert some of these points, but it's just not enough. Reject with the full push, XO having to settle with 1 point. It's not enough to win out in the museum, and now XO, although their backs are against the wall, they've been in this spot before. They pulled off a reverse sweep quite literally almost 24 hours ago, but can XO make another comeback happen here?
Here's the scary thing, though, Dan, is that even if they do, the map pool opens up again. Map 5 can just be domination, and then we might see a situation similar to Krakoa. And that's kind of my worry now, is at this juncture, like, XO, they're gonna have to be able to best Reject on that map type. They played really well in that map type against Gen G, but it just wasn't the same here today on Krakoa. So that is gonna be a looming threat, not unlike Brownie was this entire matchup. There was just no contestation. You know, every time he got an angle, nobody was able to get on top of him. Even Alone Feels trying to pepper him from shots from afar on the Cyclops. It just wasn't enough because all Brownie had to do was duck around a corner, get the support from his team, get his healing, and then wait for his Vanguard lineup to make space for him to hit the shots again. And he hit every shot and then some. 16 final hits for him, 33k damage. Nobody else in the lobby came close. Actually, no, that's a lie. Alone Feels had a fair bit of damage as well, but I think he was farming a lot of that off the front line that was directly in his face.
And it's just so difficult for XO because Reject did have the Luna Snow and the White Fox team together. That's a lot of utility, lots of CC potential on the side of Reject, so they're able to easily peel off anyone that XO were trying to jump at them. And XO, once again, maybe you put a little bit more emphasis on the White Fox in the ban draft. They decided to just completely ignore it this time around. We'll see if XO are able to adjust one more time. I really liked when they put that emphasis on the Rocket Raccoon. Maybe that becomes a comfortable spot that XO decide to rely on, because that was the way they got map number 2. So with the map pool opening up again, where does XO take us this time?
That's a very good question. I wish I had the answer to that one. I do kind of agree on the front of the Rocket Raccoon. I think they did look quite comfortable when they had access to that one. But that would, like, trying to get that now, because it's been read by Reject, would mean breaking from the plan and not going for that first protect onto the Cyclops, and that might put Alone Phils in an uncomfortable situation, and they might not be willing to do that. But we'll see what they are willing to do. It is going to be map number 4, the last map pick for XO in this matchup and potentially in this tournament. On the other side of this break, don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
A guaranteed $21,000 is one map away for Reject and a land spot at the mid-season finals. They could be one step closer to becoming the first champions of playoffs of Stage 1 in the entire world of Marvel Rivals Ignite. My name is Keg, and I'm joined back up desk again with my two amazing best friends, the ooey gooey composition over here. Dan, how's your heart?
Little bit concerning. Although XO
I
did
bet.
put up a very, very good fight on the museum, they just could not get it over the line. It just felt like, we talked about it right before we went to the break, Reject just felt like they were just setting the pace the entirety of that map. XO, when they wanted to go for plays, Reject just had that response. They were able to clap back time and time again, and XO take us to Midtown here. Usually this is a map that's not really favored towards those dive comps, and XO, if you know them, they really love playing dive. So taking us to Midtown,
You know what else they love?
move.
You know what else they love to play, Dan? Is Spider Islands. You know what they're not playing right now? That they're taking us to Midtown.
So hold on. Why Midtown, not Spider Islands?
I'm wondering if it might just be, a curveball, like kind of a situation, because, Spider Islands, we've talked at length about how it's been a comfort pick for XO, and you kind of want to throw it all out on the line here when your tournament lives are on the line. There's a land spot, potentially in your future if you can manage to bring this series back from the brink. And you can't go for something that has been read. You can't go for something that there's a lot of tape on that Reject can study, because you better believe they were not going to risk losing this land spot. They will have studied up on XO and all their dirty little tricks.
Well, it's only one game away potentially for Reject. They just have to win Midtown against XO, and unfortunately then, XO will have to be saying goodbye to them if they can't win it out, and they'll be going home with $15,000. But I'm gonna be honest with you, the money's great, but I think what XO wants most is that spot at the mid-season international LAN. And if they can't get it, that's gonna be pretty rough.
Yeah,
It'd be a disappointment if they didn't get it.
Oh yeah,
Prize pool is one thing, like you said. I mean, getting that global recognition for XO is absolutely massive. This is an unsigned team. There is not much income on most of this roster. They're doing it for the love of the game, and so far they're putting up generational performances so far here in the playoffs. They need one more. This was the map that XO used to execute Zero Tenacity, pull off that reverse sweep, and XO, one more clutch is needed to force, at the very least, a decider between the partner team here in Asia.
And to do that would be to stop Reject just 1 inch shy of the glory that they so desperately crave. Remember, chat, we've talked about it a couple times, but a land spot is on the line, and Reject are so close they can practically taste it. They were denied at the hands of Gen G yesterday. And now XO are the ones standing in their way, looking to do the very same, deny them that opportunity, claim it for their own. And in order to do that, just like you said, Dan, they got to take it to a decider, and then maybe there's going to be one more clutch on the horizon here. But as we get into this pick and ban phase, I'm curious if we're going to see any change-ups. There's one. That's a pretty big one, actually. Going for a protect onto the Gambit rather than onto the Cyclops. So, I mean, now the Cyclops is going to be open for XO to ban, because we got 2 bans coming up next.
And we'll see where XO decide to take us. They first take away the Rocket Raccoon, so that limits the offensive options that Reject want to go for. towards the long run, right? Loki still being available for both sides means that the double Royal Flush is still in the cards. Both sides will not have access to the Rocket Raccoon or the Cyclops, so a lot of that hit scan, a lot of that poke potential, and a little bit of that wombo combo potential as well being taken out of the picture. Reject will secure the Luna Snow to at the very least bolster the poke potential that Reject are looking to gear themselves towards.
It's gonna be the White Fox ban
There
coming out from XO as well, and well, like that's interesting that it comes out here on Midtown because, like you said, you know, Midtown's not the most dive-friendly map. It's a lot more, you know, crowded, a lot more brawly, a lot more pokey, a lot more front-to-back, any variation of that front-to-back playstyle. But of course, you know, you're still probably going to try and put Sungjuk Woo on something like a Daredevil or potentially even a Black Cat on a map like this, so... You know, the White Fox, I think it's still good, especially, you know, predicting that Luna Snow Protect is going to come out.
Mirror.
And, yep, it is indeed a full mirror. No White Fox, no Rocket, no Cyclops, no Mantis for either side. And as the doors open, XO will have to set the bar to buy themselves another life in this tournament.
Okay, both sides do the exact same bans, the exact same saves. So it essentially just comes down to a skill matchup. Both sides have the same resources, the same hero pools. Which team can utilize their pool better than the other? That's going to be the big question here. Alone Fills rolls out onto the Star-Lord to control the side rooms here right out of the spawn room, so that when Reject, they want to go for those side room potentials, Alone Fills is going to be tasked to try to mark them down, but with him getting taken down low, Reject are just forcing away what XO really wants to do, is spread out, control all those side rooms, so that when they go for these executions, these dive plays, they don't have to worry about someone backstabbing them.
They do have to worry about the high ground, though, is they don't really have anybody good at accessing that. I think the win condition for XO is, like, they're trying to get Sungjuk Woo access, like you say, you know, spread out and get him in there so we could potentially get a kidnap and, you know, play off of that. But we're going to see an early Deadpool ult, the big test coming out from Gargoyle as he looks to get in there and try and burst someone from XO down. Not going to work, but it does help set up Brownie for this high ground again, and he's hitting the shots onto Ace once again, and it's the same story as Museum of Contemplation. You can't just let him get away with having free sights on your backline like that, and you definitely can't let Yaki get away with being in your backline like that.
Yeah, everyone on Reject are just so spread out to the point that XO, if they control one area of the map,
That's disgusting,
Reject
Yaki.
have
That's
two other
disgusting.
places.
He goes in with a quad.
Reject have two other places that you can just take you down from. So XO, the tempo needs to be higher here. You need to cover more of those bases because Reject are controlling what feels like the entirety of this diamond.
I think your saving grace, though, is that Ace, 97% of that God of Mischief. You can get first turn when it comes to this Rage and Royal Flush combination, and even still, Felix is beating Sunghoon to the punch, so an early Royal Flush going to come out, but Yaki is in the back line waiting for a potential disengage to come out as Reject are happy to take this fight. Brownie with the Ensong Inferno. Felix catches Gargoyle out on a flank away from the rest of the pack, and will punish him for it, but as he turns to try and make that one happen, he sets himself up nicely for Yaki to knock him out of the park. And that's the first turn already gone, and with Felix not there to build up more ult charge, there's not going to be a second one. Sunghoon has an opportunity to make up the difference here.
But it's going to be a Felix with the Rage and Royal Flush. He's ahead of Sunghoon now, but Reject do have the more defensive option, right? Lasher with the Fate of Both Worlds, Piggy with the Freedom Charge as well if the fight goes long enough, but with a quick pick onto Yaki from the likes of Ace, maybe this is the go button for XO here.
I mean, they've got several go buttons, as a matter of fact. A lot of ultimates here. This next fight is going to be a bloody one, and Lastro's Fate of Both Worlds is going to have a lot of heavy lifting to do, so I sure do hope he brought his dancing shoes. Here's that Royal Flush now coming out from Sunghoon, or sorry, from Felix. Lastro pops the dance floor. Felix trying to find an elim. He goes back and does catch out onto Brownie, and Sungjuk Woo will catch out Sunghoon, so there's not going to be a Royal Flush that comes out from Reject. Piggy with the Freedom Charge is going to give a little bit more lifeline for Reject, but it's just not going to be enough as Alone Fills bursting down Lastro off another kidnap from Sungjuk Woo, and XO are starting to shift into second gear.
XO need to get clutch here. They have the Last Stand, they have the Strangling Prison, Portal comes in for Reject, but the problem is Reject do have the uncontested Gambit ult coming in. Are they able to burst down Sunghoon? But Yaki's taking full advantage of it, but Felix taking down Brownie is already a great step, but it's immediately neutralized, and the rest of Reject are looking to stabilize with 20 seconds on the clock. XO, now it's their turn to do a little bit of that Portal combat.
Yaki wants to go in and try and deny it. The portal will come out, though, and there's not going to be any ults for either side, but Ace, 90% to that God of Mischief. There is a chance for a Royal Flush here for XO, and that may very well be the winning hand that takes them over this hurdle, but Reject want to put them back where they came from, back in the spawn door, reclaim their glory, and deny the opportunity, but it does come out. The copy comes out, the Raging Royal Flush, and Reject haven't managed to strike blood before it comes out, but it's their own that will be spilled, and it's a Lone Fills that draws it. Piggy going to follow as well. Gargoyle, 3 members now of Reject in the dirt, and XO are on the board. They will cap point A, and that will be the first hurdle once again cleared. But much like Museum of Contemplation, it's the second point where things get a little sticky.
Reject didn't have any response. Their ultimate economy was in the gutter. XO had that God of Mischief. That was the saving grace for XO to, at the very least, make it competitive here in Midtown. It has to go far. It has to be for XO if they want to try to get the highest chance of getting a map number 5 here. Felix getting closer and closer to that Royal Flush means that XO should have all of this momentum, but with Lastro on the Fate of Both Worlds, it's gonna get a lot more difficult, and so far, Reject are up 2 and up 3.
Yeah, and they may go up 4 if the rest of XO don't hightail it out of here. And I think a big problem for XO is that they have just kind of failed to keep Yaki in check. And on the other side, you know, every time Sungjuk Woo goes in, especially since swapping over to this Daredevil, he's being caught out by Piggy or by Brownie or by Sunghoon again. Like, they have so much counter dive, and they know the kind of style that Sungjuk Woo likes to play. So they also know how to counter it. And I mean, Gargoyle going super aggressive, I think trying to shut him down, taking this duel with Sungjuk Woo on the off angle here. And there will be the objection now coming out, but Gargoyle says he wants to play a game, and he ain't quite Jigsaw, but he is just as scary. And Lastro with a nice little shot there to clean up Sungjuk Woo off the damage, you know, finishing the job that Gargoyle started. And now with only 1 minute left, the job is almost done for Reject.
Oh, and Felix going down is already bad news. Lone Fills is ready to let the Galactic Legend fly, but with Felix gone, that gives Reject a lot of that more space, a lot more time to stack up the Royal Flush of their own. Sunghoon is at 77%. XO now pulled the trigger, so they're going to combo it together, but Lastro was there in time with the Fate of Both Worlds.
Yeah, the Galactic Flush is not going to be flushing today, but all the ults coming out now from XO, and Lastro is doing a lot of heavy lifting with that Fate of Both Worlds, and JT3 will pummel him, shut him down with that Meteor M, and it's going to be a couple of trades coming out from both sides, and Song Inferno is forced out from Brownie. He'll go in deep into find 2, and XO are suddenly on the brink of exile, as he will not be able to find that third onto JT3, but it doesn't matter. Sunghoon is there with the shots, and he is still left standing, still left shooting, and Sungjuk Woo, a mega health pack, his only lifeline, cut short by Gargoyle, and another selfie, potentially to commemorate the day that Reject made it into Grand Finals. A Raging Royal Flush now coming out now from Ace. Piggy with the Sonic Seduction just to try and stuff them. Will catch on to Zeta, but can't confirm the elim, and this card continues to inch forward, but now it is Reject's turn. They've got the winning hand, and they will come out. Yaki letting the devil out, a mag bubble, the only thing protecting Felix, but it will expire, and so too will XO, and their chances at capping here are going null, and Sunghoon taking down Sungjuk Woo. There's no portal play, there is no point B, and Reject stand their ground and deny XO that second hurdle once again.
The second to last fight by XO might have been a slight overinvestment. They dumped everything, the entirety of their ultimate economy into the kitchen sink, and they came out relatively empty-handed. Reject were able to disengage perfectly, and XO, that was their best chance at overtaking Reject, but Reject handled it well and are able to clap back with Sunghoon's Royal Flush. And then Yaki with the Devil out just meant that too much damage for XO to handle. The strategists go down quick, and so do the rest of XO's team composition. And now going
I think it was the end song Inferno from Brownie. Like, that should not have found a double KO. Like, it was forced out. He was down to half HP. He didn't do that to try and secure an elim. He did it because he had to, but he still found a double. That end song Inferno was a death song for all who heard it, and XO couldn't cover their ears in time. And I think, you know, like, you're right, like, they invested so much into that, but Brownie again just stole it away.
And that's the clutch factor kicking in for Reject. Whatever happens, if you're able to execute your composition properly, you still need that in case things go not according to plan. And Brownie, we saw him rise up to that occasion every single step of the way. but can he do it one more time? Can he send Reject to the mid-season finals, or is XO going to make it a little bit more delayed?
I mean, they're hoping to delay as much as they can with this double res composition, but they need to keep both Ace and Alone Phil safe. Losing one essentially means losing the other. There is an opportunity to go for a duplicate onto Felix there for an invisible boundary as well, so your options with this Loki are twofold, but you need to get the healing done. And Zaytha is going to donate a fair bit of ult charge to his strategist lineup there, taking a ton of damage from that Psychic Spear from Piggy and trying to return the favor in kind. But Gargoyle on that Deadpool, already going to have a fair bit of ult charge, already has his way up to that first ultimate, and he now just gets to pick his target. As you can kind of see on and off angle here, XO are trying to check him and stop him from getting access to the backline. Regen domain forced out early on, though. Now Gargoyle with the Banhammer, and Alone Phil's going to have to retreat back into his little hovel, but that is exactly where Gargoyle is lurking, and he'll take Ace down and even get another selfie in there. Immortality achieved for a brief moment. Trying to deny it is JT3, but it's just not going to be enough as Zaytha does get in there and does actually take down Gargoyle. Hello, and Yaki also getting caught out as well. Felix with the invisible boundary just in the nick of time, and Zaytha with a triple. The cart may have slipped past them, but it will stop nonetheless.
XO are able to get the burst healing to keep Felix stabilized. He got pretty low when Reject went for the execution of their play, but XO are able to handle it well. They're able to stay alive, keep this ground for themselves. And now with Ace getting access to the God of Mischief, Alone Phil is now 25% away from the Karmic Revival. It gets harder and harder for Reject to break through unless they're able to identify where Alone Phil is and just wipe him out before anything else happens.
It's a very aggressive Sonic Seduction from Piggy. Almost got caught out there by Zaytha, but Zaytha decided not to pull the trigger on the ultimate, so Brownie will pull the trigger on him, take him down. There's the God of Mischief to duplicate the invisible boundary, but Laster was going to get the better strategist ultimate with that Fate of Both Worlds. It'll last a little bit longer than this boundary will, and will that Veil drops, so too will Alone Phil's. He's got the Cocoon. Sungjuk Woo, though, take it to the sky, a Meteor M, and he will flatten Brownie like a pancake, and the Cocoon comes out. There's still a chance for XO to hold this, and Gargoyle wants to deny it. Alone Phil's, he's under so much pressure. The Soul Bond is just to keep him alive. He might not be able to get the Karmic Revival off in time, and Reject are keeping the pressure, tightening the screws, not letting it happen. Here's the Karmic Revival up in the sky, but Gargoyle snipes him down. Two will be rezzed, but it's just not enough because they're not the ones who have the ultimates. JT3 is still in the spawn, waiting. Where's my chance? Where's my second opportunity at life? Brownie snuffs out Aces. How does that End Song Inferno find anything? This guy's a magician, a regular Houdini. Chris Angel, my mind is freaked. I don't know how he's able to pull off some of these elims, but Reject, they get the job done, and now 3:45 to finish it.
3.5 minutes is what Reject have in order to match what XO did back in round number 1. The ticket to mid-season finals is right there. That yellow marker is where it's at. Reject just have to get there. XO need to defend it with their life. Their tournament lies, backs against the wall. Whatever odds that you can stack against XO, they have risen to the occasion, but they have to do it one more time. Zaytha gets taken down low. Felix, all eyes are on him if he's able to stabilize and get that invisible boundary going. But XO, they need to play careful. They need to make sure that they don't get wiped out by the sheer burst potential from Brownie and the rest of Reject.
Zaytha is going to be thanking his lucky stars with the reconstruction from the map there, but Brownie is still able to find one, taking down JT3, the invisible boundary from Felix, and Zaytha nearly got caught outside of it, and Reject, they just give it up. They don't care. They're not going to fight into this. They know they don't have to. They've got the clock on their side, and that is the greatest weapon. It's one that XO wish they had, but because of their failure to finish the attack, it's just not going to matter. Gargoyle says the clock is going to strike midnight on the Cinderella run from XO. Reject will not be denied as Yaki goes in, punching with the billy clubs, and Reject will punch their ticket to the mid-season finals and cast XO back to the wayside. Gen G, we've got another date, my friends.
The partner teams clash one more time. Reject, they did sweat a little bit going up against XO. XO were able to squeak out with a map win, but it does not matter. What matters is Reject coming out on top 3-1. They get themselves into the mid-season finals, and maybe, just maybe, attempt 2 is where Reject come out on top against Gen G, but Gen G are looking like to be on a whole different level. XO, however, you gotta give your flowers to them. They have gone on one generational run here in stage 1, and you gotta keep your heads held up high for XO because this is the deepest run they have ever done in their Ignite history.
I mean, like, I said from the beginning that XO beating Reject and claiming a land spot was a long shot, but XO still gave it their best shot, and it was a very impressive one. I feel like they just kind of, they did get outplayed by Reject, but they played up to Reject right up until the very end, the 3-1 score line. History striking twice. I think the last time, I think Keg said it first, the last time XO took a map up against Reject, it still ended up being Reject 3-1, and unfortunately, history was not on XO's side. Reject running away with it, writing their names in history once more, revisiting the mid-season finals as they have been before, going back to the international stage to show the world what makes this Pacific region just so special. And there is something special about some of these players. Brownie and his clutch factor coming up, bailing Reject out of so many fights that it felt like XO had a shot to win, had a shot to close out, but all it took was a couple of end song infernos, and every single flame that XO tried to ignite got snuffed out.
XO once again proved to be the absolute wild card of the Pacific region, but unfortunately they played their last hand. But they're not going to go home empty-handed though. They do get $15,000 for their team, but unfortunately, I think to them the true prize would be an international spot at the mid-season finals, which just barely escaped them by 2 maps. So Dan,
how's your heart?
Probably flatlining now.
Yeah, he's deceased.
Just like XO's tournament hopes, I am also flatlining. But I'm okay with this because
if only we had 3 spots to give. If only.
If only we had
year.
3 spots here in Pacific. It'll happen one day. I'm sure of it.
It will.
Now,
it will.
We're gonna have to settle with 2, right? The partner. To be fair, the partner teams. It just feels like they have that expectation of getting to that international tournament. And Reject, in a sense, you could say that they are breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief, right? Making sure that they're able to get to that international stage. Being that partner team, again, a lot of pressure right onto Reject to make sure that they're able to qualify at the very least. And they have done just that, while XO, you got a lot of heads turning towards them because this is a team that you need to watch throughout the entirety of 2026.
Just ask Zero Tenacity.
Yeah. Yeah,
Just ask them.
Zero Tenacity and XO especially are going to be 2 teams that I want to look forward to going into promo relegation and stage 2, of course, and so on and so forth into the future. Especially XO, because I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe, I don't know anything behind the scenes, but I could see a reality where maybe they don't stay XO forever. Who knows? With a team as wild and, of course, as win-heavy as them, they could very well be signed next time we see them.
I'd love to see them be signed. An unsigned team that makes it this far and also has this much of an identity and this much of a cult following at this point. Sorry to imply you're in a cult there, Dan. But, I think, there's a fan base waiting to happen there, and you can capture that. I think, you want to sign these boys, get them the resources that they need to level up and take it even closer to Reject than we saw that they could today. Forget Krakoa. That map didn't happen. Take a look at maps 2, 3, and 4, and that'll tell the story of just how good this XO squad really is and the potential that they have to upset some of these teams that don't take them seriously enough. You can even ask Reject. I'm sure we will once we have the interview all set up. We can even ask Reject, I guess, how seriously you have to take XO. This isn't a team that you can overlook. This isn't a team that you could just try and play past. You have to focus on them. You have to give them your full respect, your full attention, and sometimes you're gonna have to come up with some clutch moments if you want to beat a team like this.
I mean, look, we gotta give it to Sungjok Woo, right? He was the most entertaining player I think we've seen this season outside of maybe Eggsy, right? Eggsy, 99 elims, almost 100 per series, but the most amount of heroes I think we've seen in a series alone from one player has to go to SJW, man. He was unbelievable. The Spider-Man, the Magneto, Black Cat, Daredevil, a tiny bit of Wolverine. It almost felt like there was a duelist he didn't play.
I mean, that's the expanded hero pool that Sungjok Woo has. He's been cooking with this ever since 2025. So this is no surprise, at least for me, seeing how Sungjok Woo plays at the Ignite level. But the amount of adjustments he has made, I think right here in 2026, this has been the most amount of heroes that Sungjok Woo has played, at the very least in a single series, right? All the way back yesterday when they played against Zero Tenacity. I think I might need a second set of hands to count how many heroes that Sungjae played.
I think with Sung Jok Woo, things might still be a little bit rocky, but there's definitely a diamond shining through, and all it takes is a chisel to let that diamond out.
Oh, I wonder what that chisel will be. Could it be the promo relegation? Could it be stage 2? I'm sure only time will tell for EXO.
Dan, what would you do if EXO got relegated?
I would probably.
Don't do that to Dan.
I would probably cry, but
I
I
couldn't resist.
We
I couldn't
need Dan
resist.
alive.
I think XOXO01 might be safe from promo relegation because it's for the bottom 50% of the regions, and with XOXO01 making.
I'm
sure
just
that
covering
they
my
stay-
bases.
Yeah, you never know what could happen to XOXO01 in the distant future. I hope we don't get the bad ending. I hope they stay at this high level that they've been consistently performing at. Because, like, we talked about it, right? 4th place purgatory for XOXO01. Although it sucks to keep getting 4th place, it is still a consistent and a very respectable result considering the amount of talent that this team has to go up against time and time again here in Ignite.
It's growth. I mean, look, you were 4th place Demons for so long. Now you're 3rd place. Who knows, by the end, again, future ahead, as long as EXO stays together, we're looking at maybe stage 2. We could see a reality where they get themselves 2nd or even 1st place.
There's a lot of variables that are going to come into play, and a large part of that is going to be determined based on what happens during the mid-season finals. And I think that's a good opportunity to shift gears because we got to talk about Reject.
Ring,
In fact,
ring.
let's talk to Reject.
That's right, we got J-Mac on the line. Hello, my friend.
Hello.
Hello.
We made
Oh,
it in. Yeah.
Hello, how are you? Woo!
We made it!
Guys, congratulations. So,
thank you,
J-Mac,
thank you.
talk to us about the performance today of Reject. How do you feel?
We just so come to lose a final. So we very many prefer first like counter ban, counter draft or counter chrome. I think this is very good work. So I'm very happy. Yeah.
It's been a wonderful performance. You have all the right to be happy. I mean, something that I would like to know is tell me a little bit about the personalities of some of these players. What is it like being the coach of this team, of some of these guys?
So you can say more easy.
What is it like coaching players, like Piggy and Lastro and players with a lot of personality?
Personality. We don't like. I don't many feedback like personal because our team mechanical or performance is very good, so we just keep talking about the like team plan. Yeah, team plan together.
Okay.
And another question, right? You guys just played against XO. How did you guys get ready to play against XO today? Was there something you guys had to do different? What was your plan going into XO?
First EXO, yes. So EXO is use many special come like they have Sungjae, so he can play like very special melee character player like Iron Fist, Magic, like Spider-Man. But we just think if we die first like Sungjae die, just the support player bad. So we just keep saying don't die to the enemy like Sungjae dive character. I think we if we don't die enemy Sungjae dive character, I just say I think we can win very easily. Yeah, because he really made the magic kill. But because he really made the magic kill.
From EXO, you have a rematch now against Gen G. How have you prepared for that matchup?
Yesterday we lose first Gen G, but we don't think our performance bad worse than. We don't think our performance worse than Genji, so because we only lose like draft, just like team about team. So today we just make a like special draft to Genji. Yeah. So I think we can revenge. Yeah.
That sounds great. J-Mac, the audience is yours right now. Is there anything you'd like to say going into your Gen G match?
Do we say okay?
Do you have any words for Gen G? Anything you'd like to say?
Work? Like a word?
Yeah.
A word.
Is there anything you want to say to them?
I'm very happy we going together LAN. I'm very happy, but give me the final champion. we more want. Wait.
All right, those are
waiting
some fighting
final.
words, J-Mac. All right.
Yeah.
That sounds incredible, J-Mac. Well, you have a lot of prep up ahead. Thank you so much for joining us here, and who knows, maybe we'll be interviewing you again in just a few hours.
Yeah, I think yes.
Okay. Very confident.
Okay.
Thank you so much, J-Mac.
Thank you.
My congratulations
Absolutely.
once again.
Oh, man. Confident. I mean, look, if you're a reject, you have to feel confident, right? You have made a near flawless run from the start of preseason all the way to the tippity top at the very edge of stage 1. And look, you've already guaranteed the landslide, too. Like, I feel like, no offense, kind of the hard part is over. It's just a matter now of getting that grudge match victory against Gen G.
Yeah, the weight is off your shoulders now, and you can just focus on the task at hand. And the task at hand is now establishing dominance over the team that put you down in the lower bracket, made you have to fight for your land ticket. Doesn't matter. You can start booking your flights right now, or maybe give it a couple hours and wait until we're done with this matchup before you start hitting up Expedia.
You saw J-Mac. He literally went like, yeah, we made it to land. So, like you said,
Big
the
sigh of
pressure is
relief.
off. Now it's just making sure that you're able to come out as the #1 seed here, because now it's all come down to how much prize money you get, how much of that seeding potential that you have. You want to get first seed when you go into that land potential. That gives you the highest odds of, at the very least, making your name known.
It also shows, as well, coming in the first seed into an international land, that you are the standard bearer of that region, and you don't want to just hand that honor over to Gen G.
Absolutely. Well, there is going to be a little bit of a break up ahead. Reject